Yeah. Could you do, just count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's going anywhere.
I'm an accountant, 25, but 70, 40.
Okay. So, how did you think that hearing went?
I actually thought it was quite good. Maybe everybody won't agree with me, but I think Hilty got their attention, and he said what needed to be said, that we've got a real problem. That we got exponential growth that can't be sustained. And of course, how good I did, that's not my opinion, didn't count anyway. But I said what I wanted to say, and that was that, hey, the problem is there's way too much debt and not near enough money. And there's only one way you can solve that problem. You can cut it any way you want. There's only one way to solve that problem, and that's to create more money without creating the debt, and do it in a way that benefits everybody. And again, obviously when you're up there, in spite of who you think you are, everybody gets a little nervous. I've seen a lot of guys do it a lot, and they're still a little nervous. And I was too. I mean, let's be honest. But you judging their faces, I thought they was listening, or most of them. One guy was asleep, but then he wasn't. There's 3 or 4 on that committee. You could hit them over the head with a hammer, and it wouldn't make any difference. I mean, they've made up their mind, and they don't want nothing to do with it. But there's a lot of others that's not the case. And that's why that we work so hard, and Erlon and I personally this year have talked to every one of them but 1 or 2, and some of them twice. And I think the only one that I really know that we didn't was Mullery. So you know, it's not like you sitting up in the audience and heard it for the very first time. I'm sure it didn't make much sense to them, because they've never heard stuff like this. Nobody talks about stuff like this. But the committee members, that's just not true, because they have heard it. And I'm sure, and I guarantee you, they will hear it again before the next year's over.
Okay. What is the next step for this bill?
The next step is to go ahead and try to get Hoppy to give a hearing later on next year. It's too late this year. We won't get another one. And then hopefully that he will move for it to be passed. And now we've got to spend some time talking to him, and I'm going to try to see him some this summer, and then also to try to keep the companion bill in the Senate moving some. Won't happen this year, but we might be able to get it done next year. And I'm going to work on some of them this summer too. And one thing we are doing too now that we've never done until this year is we're going around and talking to a lot of the behind-the-scenes people down here. The people who write the fiscal notes, the people who write, if the legislator has a question and she sends it up to research, we're going to them, and so we know that they understand it a lot more than when they, because we've seen some really bad things come out of the research. They don't clearly understand it at all. In fact, one of the things you constantly get is, oh my gosh, you can't do that, you'll just create too much money. And I don't know about you, but I've never met but one person in my life that actually thought he might have too much money. He was an old man on the verge of dying and had a lot of it. But other than that, I have never found anybody that I really thought they had too much money. And I don't think Bill Gates and a lot of these people who are supposed to be really rich weren't think they have too much because they don't quit. And as far as too much money, we had a discussion the other day with a guy, and for example, Social Security, if that stopped, can you imagine how much people would actually have to save out of their income in order to actually have a retirement when they got to be 65 or 70? And I've done some math on that, and say, for example, you get an average salary of $40,000, and you work for 45 years, that's between age 20 and age 65. Well, if you're going to go ahead and have at least $30,000 of income to live on after that, think how much you're going to have to actually save out of that money. And it's historically proven, I've seen the figures on it, that hardly anybody today can save any money unless they have at least $40,000 of your income. And it's going to get worse and worse. Because let's be honest, if you have to borrow 100% of your money and pay 10% back, and then you're going to save 25% of that for 30 years so you can retire, wait a minute, you can't do that and never get out of debt. You can't even pay your loans. And that's what's going to happen, and we're going to see it get worse and worse. it's not going to get better because they just got to get bigger. And if they shut down the debt. Today I had a nice conversation with the first senator to ever introduce this bill, and I was telling him the total money supply, and yeah, he just, oh my gosh. So see, there are some of them getting it, and it's just a constant. It's just like anything else you start and you go out with giving somebody a new idea that they've never dreamed about, never even thought about the subject. I guarantee you it's hard to get them to wrap their head around it. But we ain't about to give up.
What can the average, everyday person do to help out this effort?
Talk to his neighbor. Explain the same thing to your neighbor and your friends and maybe even some of your enemies. And that's really what it is. When it gets to be where this subject is talked about in the coffee shops and the bars around the country, we will succeed without a question. In the meantime, it helps to, like Hoppy, he needs to get some more phone calls that thank him for having the hearing, and you know, you know, now we'd like to see you move it ahead and get it passed. And those things, I think, make it a lot of difference that just an average person can do. And I was frankly amazed at how many people I worked with was willing to do that for me. And now I'm going to go back to work Friday, and I'm going to tell them that, man, we got the hearing, thank you. Now would you be kind enough to call him and thank him for it and say, now can we have another one where we have a vote and get you moved for it to get passed? And see, that's the kind of thing that shows that there's support out there. If everybody just goes about their life like nothing's happening, then nothing will happen.
The expectation going into the hearing, was it equal with how it turned out?
Just exactly. I was hoping there would be a couple more questions, but you could tell by the timeline it was getting tight. Because, see, that's why we moved this up, because the other guy didn't show and they was giving him time. And of course, if you're not even prepared to talk because you think there's going to be a couple more hearings, it makes it a little tougher. But at the same token, you do what you got to do when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all.
Okay.